All right, so once again,
Okay.
welcome. Okay, so welcome
Yeah.
to.
So, hello guys. Welcome to this today's event. Today is like we are glad to have you all join this event. Is like it's a great opportunity to learn, and then the thing is that it's going to be taken from scratch, and then Kelvin is going to do that. So, no matter your background, you should just give your mind to whatever that is going to be taught. And then when you have any question, make sure you're able to use the chat. And once he's going through, you can also be putting your questions in the chat. And then once he's done with certain aspect of the slide, you can attend to that. There is also going to be a demo. So my name is Mante Emmanuel. I'm a three-time MLSA from the University of Ghana. And yes, I'm helping Kelvin with this event. So thank you guys for joining. I'll just leave it to Kelvin to take over from here. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Emmanuel. Okay, so yeah, welcome to this event. I'm happy to see everyone here and passionate about learning today. I'm very happy about that. Okay, so my name is Kelvin. So most of you might probably know me already. Um, I'm currently the Alpha Microsoft Learning Student Ambassador in the University of Ghana, and I'm offering computer science. And currently, next semester, I'm entering level 300 basically, and I'm a full stack developer. So I have interest in building web applications and then mobile applications with the main stack. Okay, so to the next slide. So the agenda for today's events, we are basically going to talk about the overview, just a brief overview about the whole event. And we're going to see why we should even learn React, why not add in other frameworks, but then why should we learn React.js? And then we are going to talk about what we are going to be building, because at the end of this event, we'll be building something. We're going to see what that thing is. So there's a few prerequisites for this event as well I'm going to talk about. So don't worry about that. And then there's this demo section where we are going to actually get our hands dirty and start coding. And then at the end, we are going to have, if time permits, we are going to have a short Q&A session where if you have any question, you can just ask and then we will answer you. Okay. So to the overview. Yes. So what at all is React.js? I'm sure most of you have heard of React before. React.js. People are talking about React.js. What at all is React? So React is basically a JavaScript library that helps us build applications, web applications, right? The UI of web applications. So UI is basically the user interface. So for every application, we have the front end and then we have the back end, right? So React actually helps us to build the front end of applications, okay? And then you can use different technologies for the back end, but if you are focusing on front end, then React.js is the tool for you. And React is currently, actually React was built by Facebook, which is currently Meta, and then it's being maintained by them as well. So React is it's worth noting that React is built by Meta. Okay. So why should you even learn React? Why should you learn React? So first of all, you might think, oh, React is difficult. So why should I waste my time learning this difficult thing? Actually, it is very easy. When you wrap your head around, you realize React is very easy and it makes your work 10 times even simple, because comparing it to other libraries and then normal HTML and CSS, you realize React actually makes your life as a developer very easy. Trust me, it's very simple. So don't worry at all. And also, there is high demand on the job market for React developers, because right now most people are looking for React developers. Because the reason is React is actually a very good and popular framework today that most people are using to build applications. So for that reason, most people or most employers are looking for React developers. So if you are very skilled in React.js, hearing news like a halt in what was it called? The government not being able to employ new people in the government sector wouldn't even be so it wouldn't bother you, because you have the skills which are being needed in the job market. Because if you have the skills as a React developer, trust me, you are good to go. And also, it's not very difficult to learn React. If you start learning and you stay focused, you are going to basically get good at it. It's very simple, trust me. And also, as I said earlier, React is a JavaScript library. So the more you use React, it lets you better understand JavaScript as well. So it's very good. It's a very good tool to better understand JavaScript. And one more important thing is that since React help. So can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Okay. Yeah, okay, sure.
Yes, you can.
So yeah, thanks. So React has a large community because there's a lot of people around the world who use React. And this means that if you have a problem, suppose you're coding React, right? And you face a problem in your code and you are stuck, basically you are stuck. And you just Google that problem on your browser, whatever. You're going to get people who have actually faced that same problem and have found a solution to that problem, or someone else have found a solution to that problem. So it's like the problem you are facing, there's already a solution out there that when you Google it, you are going to find. So it actually makes your development, or it makes you develop quite faster, because the problem you're facing has a solution online, so you don't have to worry at all. And then React also introduces JSX, or JavaScript XML. Now we are going to talk more about this JSX later on as we proceed. So let's move on. And what will we be building? So like I said earlier, at the end of the event, we'll be building something. So it's very simple. This is very simple. It's a counter app. So actually, we did not build this. We downloaded this image online. But then just to get a concept, we're going to build something similar to this so that we actually understand the whole thing. Okay, so this is what we will be building at the end of this event. Okay, so the prerequisites I talked about earlier. So like I said, since React is a front-end library, right? You need a basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, and then JavaScript. Now, you don't have to be an expert in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You just need the basic knowledge of these tools. You don't have to be an expert. And don't worry, if you don't have no idea about HTML and CSS, don't worry, because we'll touch on them, because we'll touch on HTML, we'll touch on CSS, and then we'll touch on JavaScript before we even start with the React. So if you are here today, you are in for a treat. You would like to stay the whole time. All right. So this is HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And basically, it's the structure of the web application. So this is how a sample of how the code looks like. We have the div and then the span with some text in it. So you can think of it as boxes that contain our code. All right. The div is the box. The span is also a box, Okay, and then we have the CSS, meaning cascading style sheet. So the CSS basically is the tool that actually helps us to style our application, add the colors and then shift things to the left side or to the right side, whatever we want to do, just to make our application look beautiful, And then, yeah, so for CSS, we have these selectors, we have the ID, which uses the hash, and then class, which uses the dot, and then we can use the tag name as well. So don't worry at all, we'll talk more about that when we start coding. And then we have the JavaScript. So the JavaScript actually helps us to make our application function a lot better, because think of it this way. So HTML is the skeleton. So our human body, we have skeletons, right? So HTML is the skeleton. And then CSS is the flesh on the skeleton, because the human being can't just move around with just the skeleton. You also need the flesh to look good, So HTML is the skeleton, and then CSS is the flesh. And then as humans, we can't just move around with skeleton and then flesh. We need to be able to function. We need our brain, we need our heart, we need all these things to, move around and then do all those things. So that's where JavaScript comes in. So in building web applications, we build it with HTML and then CSS for styling. But if you want it to function, when you click a button, this should happen. When you do this, this should happen. When you visit this web page, this should pop up, something like that. You are going to need JavaScript for it. So it's very important to, add JavaScript to your application if you want it to function very well. So this a snippet of JavaScript. You have in the script tag, and then we are just console logging hello world here. Very simple. Okay, so let's move on. Node.js and MP. So like I'm sure most of you have done this already, because I've spammed it basically in your emails, and then I've sent it in the various WhatsApp groups as well. So you must have Node.js locally installed, and then you need a code editor like Visual Studio Code. Now I'm saying Visual Studio Code because Visual Studio Code actually is a great tool for developers. It provides extensions Jerry, can you please mute the one who just entered? Okay, thanks. So we are using Visual Studio Code because Visual Studio Code actually gives us the extension. So it has benefits, a lot of benefits, which actually increases our development speed. You know, it helps us develop a lot faster. Okay, so the slide just left. But all right, it's not a problem. We are just going to start with the demo straight away. We're going to start with the demo right away. So like I said, we are going to begin with HTML, CSS, and then JavaScript. So I hope you have your laptops with you and ready to follow along as well. So let me share my screen now.
Yes.
Please, can you see my screen?
Yes, please. Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay, sure. Thanks. All right. So the
No,
first
I
thing you
can't
want
see
to
the
do
screen.
is create a folder, right? Like that's just the first thing you would want to do. So let me go to my desktop and then create a new folder here called, what should I even call it? Let's say HTML basics. Let me create it. Okay, so after you've created your folder, now you can create it anywhere at all. You can create it on your desktop. It doesn't really matter. So after you create your folder, you want to open your folder in command prompt or your terminal. So if you're on Windows, you can use command prompt for this or any other terminal you feel comfortable using. So I'm going to open it in my terminal. I'm going to do this to open in my terminal. Or you can just open command prompt, right? Just find your way through your operating system and then open command prompt. And then just make sure you are inside that directory, you are inside that folder you just created, inside the your terminal. So here, the name of the folder I created is called HTML basic. So that's the name you are seeing here. So make sure that in your terminal, you're actually inside that folder. Okay, great. So whilst you are in there, do code dot. So you need to have Visual Studio Code installed for this to work. If you don't have Visual Studio Code, what I'm doing now will not work. So make sure that you have installed Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to do code and then dot. Now this command is going to open VS Code for me inside that folder. Now you are going to see what I'm talking about here now. Yes, I trust the author. Okay, great. So this is the folder I just created. You can see it's now here. It's an empty folder. There's nothing in it, right? Okay, great. So I'm going to create our first folder, which is going to be the HTML file. Our first file, sorry, which is going to be the HTML file. So I just clicked here, this file icon here, plus with the plus sign here. I clicked on it for this drop down to appear. So I'm going to name it index. Sorry, let me delete this. So I'm going to name it index.html. Good. So now we've created our first HTML file. So I'm going to do something here. Now, what I just did is clicked. Let me clear everything. I just entered exclamation mark. VS Code makes things a lot easier for us. So with exclamation mark, you just get the boilerplate for a basic HTML application. Because writing your HTML application, you need the HTML tags, the head tags, and then the meta tags as well, including the body. So when you use the exclamation mark and you hit enter, it gives you the default things because you need this to actually start writing your HTML code. Okay, so let me open this file in the browser. So when you go back to the folder you created, you realize it's no longer empty. Our folder we created called HTML basics. It's no longer empty. We have this file in here called index.html. Now when I open it, it opens in the browser for me like this. So as you can see, that's the file we just created. It has opened in the browser.
Kelvin, you're muted.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You're
Okay, sure. All right,
muted
sure.
at first.
Okay.
Yes.
So
we
what I
can
was saying
hear you.
is, when you change the title tag here, it appears here on the browser. It appears here on the browser, like so. So HTML. So whatever you put in the title tag, this is where it appears. Yeah. So I was saying that any change. So at the moment, what I've done, any change at all you make in your code, you'd have to refresh the page before you see it's changed. But it's not a good thing. You know, it's going to waste your time. You'd want the change to take effect as soon as you write the code, right? So that you move faster. So I'm going to use an extension in VS Code called Live Server. You know, so these are some of the benefits of using VS Code. So I'm going to use an extension called Live Server. This is it. So when you go to the left tab and hit, so on the left tabs here, when you hit this icon, which is the extensions, you can come in here and then in the search bar, just type Live Server, and you're going to see this here. So the first one you see here is actually what we need. So click on it, and then I've installed it already. So if you haven't installed it, just click install, and it's going to install for you. Okay, so once that is done, you will see a tab here, which is called Go Live. You can click on it to go live, or just hit right click anywhere, and then you're going to see Open with Live Server. So as you can see here, Open with Live Server, and it's going to open it's going to open your HTML file in a browser for you. So at this point, whatever change you make is going to appear without you refreshing the page. So let's say HTML, let me say new updates. I realize it's going to change immediately. I didn't have to load the page. Oh, great. Okay, so what we are going to do here now is the whole point of me starting from HTML is to see why you should move from HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to React. Because even though people use HTML and CSS, React is a better option. And why wouldn't you use the better option that everyone is using? You know, so I'm going to for the what do we call it? The counter app we talked about. I'm going to do the same thing with HTML and CSS. Then I'll do the same thing in React, so that we see the difference. And you decide which one you want to use, whether you want to continue using HTML or you want to start using React. Okay, so that's what we are coming to do here. That's the whole thing, the whole point here. And also to get you a lot more familiarized with HTML and JavaScript and CSS. You get me? Okay, so let me use the H1 tag here. Now the H1 tag is like heading 1. So H1 gives you a larger text, H2 smaller, H3 smaller, and so on. You get it? So H1 here is going to give me a larger text. So I have a number here called 0, like a number, just a number, which is 0. And we are seeing it here, like so. And then I'm going to add a button. So with this button, I'm going to put in a text called count. So as you can see, we have a number here. I hope you guys can see. You have a number here, and then the count button here. Okay, so first of all, let me put them in a div, because we talked about a div being sort of blocks, right? The div is a block which we can put our code in. So let me put everything here in a div. So the div, think of it as a block, and then I'm going to paste everything in here. Let me start it a bit. Okay, great. So right now, at the moment, it's in a div. Not a lot has changed. I've just put it in a div. Now this allows you to start styling it or do whatever you want with it. Okay, so now we can create a CSS file, because I said the CSS helps us to style our application. Okay, so right now, as we can see there, our number and then the button is in the left side. I want it to be in the center of the whole application. So you can easily do this with CSS. So you can come back here where you have your folder and then this file icon, click on it, and then type style, or you can name it whatever you want. But I'm going to use style.css, but make sure that the extension is .css. Okay. So we've created a file. Now that we've created it, you have to link it to the HTML file so that you can be able to write your styles in that file for it to reflect in this particular HTML file. So to do that, you can just come inside the header, right? Inside the header, anywhere in the header, and then do link, and then you get some options here. So this emit options gives you some like shortcuts to get your stuff done. Okay. So when I hit the link, I get this line of code here, which is link which is style sheet. So it's the style sheet that we are going to be using, and it is making reference to the style.css, right? This file, right? So now any style at all I add here is going to reflect in the browser. So if I come here and then I make reference to the body tag, okay, because the body tag also we can use tags to make reference to HTML components basically. So if I take the body and I say background color to be black, the whole page should be black. Now let's see. Great. So now as you can see, the whole browser is now black. So it means we've successfully hooked the CSS file to the HTML file as well. Okay, so let's clear this and continue from where we stopped. So I don't need the body tag now. What I need is to make reference to this div tag. Okay, so I'm going to give it an ID. I'm going to give it an ID called container. And then inside the styles.css, we're going to make reference to that ID with the hash sign. And then the name. So what name did we give to the ID called container? Okay. And then container. Okay, then we start styling it. So I'm going to see, let me see what. So this thing you are seeing here is actually GitHub Copilot. It's giving me some codes here I don't want. So let me just type my own thing. Height. Let's use 100%, or let's use 100 view VH. It's going to 100 VH means it's going to take the height of your screen, so the full height of your screen, and then the width should also be 100 view width. Great. And then I'm going to do display flex, and I'm going to align items centrally so that they remain in this vertically centered, and then justify content center, so everything is actually on the center of the application. So if you go back now, you realize everything is in the center, but you can see that the number is on the right side of the count. We don't want that, so let me just do flex direction column for it to be in a column form, like so. Okay, great. So now it should go back to how it is. Okay, so we can keep it this way for now. Now we need just the functionalities for it. We are not here to style the application. So this is just for you to get a fair idea of what HTML and CSS is. So I hope by now you can see how CSS helps us. Okay, great. So what we want to do now is anytime I click on the count button, I want the number here to increase by say 1, 2, or even 3, or whatever we want to do. So for now, when we click on the button, nothing happens. So we want the number to increase. So to do that, we need JavaScript. Okay, we need JavaScript for this to work. So let's create our JavaScript file. So the same way we created our CSS file, we'll come here, hit this icon, and do app.js. You can call it whatever you want, but make sure that the extension is .js. And after you've created it, it's very important for you to link it with your HTML file. So to do that, you come right underneath your, but it should be the last thing before the body tag. So you add a script tag here, and then you reference it to the app.js file you created. So to do that, you do src, right? And then the name of that file, which is app.js, like so. Now, suppose the app.js is inside a different folder in the same directory, you have to make reference to that folder before the file. You get me? Okay. So now they should now link it. So if I come in here and I say alert hello world, it should alert something. Yeah, so now you can see it has alerted hello whatever. So yeah, so it means you've successfully linked it. You've successfully linked the JavaScript to it as well. Okay, so now just like how we made reference to the HTML tags in the CSS file, we need to make reference to the HTML tags inside the JavaScript file as well. So to do this, we can use the IDs as well. We can use the ID thing we used here to do the same thing in JavaScript. So for this h1 tag, which contains the number 0, I'm going to give it an ID. Okay, I think this thing is quite small. Let me increase it. Okay, so I hope you can now see it better. Okay, so with this h1 tag, I'm going to give it an ID called number. Okay, and then with the count, I'm going to give it an ID called count, like so. Okay, great. Now we have to reference it in the JavaScript. So like how we used the ID, the hash sign to reference IDs in the CSS file, to do that in JavaScript, we use the document.getElements by ID. You know, So we are going to see that here. So it's like we're creating a variable. So in JavaScript, to create a variable, you either use the var, let, or const. Okay, so for the ES6 syntax, you can use let and then const. So you can just stick with let and const. So the time you would want to use const is when you know that this variable is not going to be changed. That's when you would want to use const. But if the variable is going to be changed in the future, then you would use let, because let allows the variable to change its value. So a number, the name of the variable equals document dot get element by ID, and then you add the name of the ID you gave it in your HTML file, right? Okay. And then the second one is what? Button. So thank you, GitHub Copilot, because he has given me what I need right now. So the next one is button, which is document.get element by ID. So yeah, just by doing this, I've made reference to the number and then the button. So I can do whatever I want with it. Now, I have to create a function which anytime that button is clicked, the number is increased, right? Okay, so first of all, I'm going to create a variable here called let's count equals 0, like so. So now we've created a variable called count. Now this count is going to change periodically. So that's where it's going to be reflected on the browser. Okay, so I've declared this variable called count. And then this button here, anytime we click on the button, that button, which is this button icon here, wants the count to increase. Okay, yes. So I'm going to create a function here called increment. So function. To create a function in JavaScript, this is how you do it. I'm going to use the arrow syntax. So it's very simple. Just watch me. Const, I'm going to call it increase equals, or let me just say increment. Okay, it's fine. Increase equals, yeah. Then count plus plus. And then, so what this means is, this count plus plus here means is, anytime this button is clicked, right, this number should increase by 1. So let me write it in a way you can understand it. So it basically means count is equal to count plus 1. This is just what it means. So anytime you click on it, it's going to increase by 1. And when it increases, we are letting the number. So this number here, remember, is making reference to this h1 tag we have here, this 0 here. So when we click on it, we are letting this number. So we do number.inner HTML, or let me just use inner text instead. So we are doing number.inner text equal to count. So what this means is that anytime the button is clicked, whatever is inside this tag would leave, like it will go away, and then it will be replaced by what this count value is. You get me? So it reflects here. Okay. All right. So now we need to add the events listener. So for the events list, we have a lot of events listeners in this case, but what we are doing now, we just need a click. So as you can see, a button.add events listener, and then we're using the click event, and then we call the function we just created here, like so. So we have a lot of events here. When you check the options, you have abort, animation, cancel, like a lot. And then we are using the click. Okay. So anytime we click on the button, this function is going to run. Okay. So now let's test it and see if it's actually working. Okay. Okay. So it's not working for now for some reason. Now let's find out. Let's debug our code. So this should be in here, out here, like so. Okay. So let's test it again. Okay, so let's log what count is, because since we have a bug here that we have to fix, let's log what count is in the console. Let's see what count is. So in our console, let me refresh the page. But up now reading add events listener. Okay, so for some reason it's not getting the add events listener. So there's another option we can use instead of this method. So let me undo the things I've done here and bring it back in here. So instead of using the add events listener here, we can bring this function inside our HTML. So where we have the button here, you can do on click in here, and then call the function you just created, like so. Okay. Yeah. So now let's see. Okay, so as you can see now, the number is changing. So when I click on the button, it's increasing. The number is increasing by 1. And if I come back here and then I change it from 1 to, let's say, 10, it's going to start increasing by 10. So when I click on it, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and so on. Yeah, so we've successfully built this counter app thing here. Now, suppose you are actually you want to make this complex, right? You want to make, let's say, 1,000 replicas of this actual components. How are you going to do it? Does it mean that you are going to duplicate all the code here? Because you have to, yes, you have to basically duplicate this, copy and paste, and then write it multiple times. That's where the problem is, because with HTML, CSS, you can't just write once and then use it all over your application. That's why React is helpful, because with React, you build a component like this, you build it once, and then you can use it across your applications, right? So right now, I want to do a second one because maybe my employer says I should build this counter app 10 times. So now I have to duplicate it and keep duplicating it till I get the 10 numbers I want. So after you've copied it, you have to change the ID to something or say number 2 and then count 2 here. And then we are going to create a different function called increase 2, like so. And then you come back in here and then you just have to duplicate the same thing again, all over again. But then you call this number 2 and then button 2 here. You do the same thing here, number 2 and then button 2. And then you come and create the increase 2 function here again. Increase 2. And then you have to duplicate this count variable again. Let's count 2 equal to 0. And you have to duplicate it. And then you let count 2 here to be equal to count 2. And then you do the same thing again. So just like that, you have a second duplicate. Now let's see if it's working. So like you can see, as you can see now, just now you have a bug. So this is the problem with HTML CSS. If you keep duplicating, you just end up having a lot of bugs in your code. Okay, end up having a lot of bugs. You have a long lines of code just trying to complete a simple task. That's the problem we have here. So here is the problem. So instead of number, I have to make it number 2 because that's the second one, and then it's going to be equal to count 2 as well. So when you come back here now, it should work. Okay, as you can see here, now the both of them are working. Now, so going through this process 10 times is very, very tedious. So as a developer, you need to make your code dry. But I'm saying dry because dry means don't repeat yourself. Okay, dry, don't repeat yourself, DRY. So as a developer, your code must be dry. This means that when you're writing code, don't duplicate things. So you write a code once, you should use it all over your application, unless you must do something totally different. But make sure that, and if you want to achieve this, React is the best option because it helps you make your code dry, basically. Okay, so at this point, we'll just start with the React so that we see how we can do this same thing in React and how React can actually make it a lot faster for us. Okay, so good. So as we created a folder here called HTML Basics, we're going to do the same thing here. So on your desktop, I created a folder on my desktop, so you can also create it somewhere else if you want. So I'm going to create another folder for the React. Okay. So I'm going to create a new folder called React Basics. I'm going to open it, and then I'm going to open it in my terminal. So just make sure you open it in your terminal or command prompt or whichever terminal you're using. So right now I'm inside my terminal, inside that folder. So I think at this point I can close VS Code. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing, code dot to open the VS Code for me. Okay, so right now we're in VS Code. Great. So now we need to install React, right? We need to install React, and to do this is very simple. So we can just bootstrap it with create React app. It's very simple. So you need a command, one command to create a React app. Okay, so for this to work, you need to have Node installed. It's very important to have Node installed. If you don't have Node installed, it won't work. So just make sure that you have Node installed. So to create your React app, I'm going to do npx create React app. So after you do npx create React app, and then you are going to add the name of your project, okay, the name of your project or whatever application you're coming to build. So it can be any name, or you can just do dot. Now, if you do dot, the application is going to be installed inside the current folder it's in. So if I do dot, then it means the React is going to be installed inside the React Basics folder I created. But if I add the name here, it's going to create a new folder with that name and install the React inside that folder. But since we already have a folder created, which is already empty, I can just use that same folder. So I'm going to do npx create React app and then add dot, and it's going to create it inside that folder for me. Now this will take a couple of minutes. So let's wait for it a bit. What's the problem? Cannot create a project named right there because npm name. Okay, whatever. So let's just add a new. So this is, I'm getting this error because the naming convention I'm using is not accepted to create a project in React. So it means we have to create a new folder for it. So npx create React app, and I'm going to call it React Basics. Let me just say React Basics, like so. So this will just work. So it's going to create a new folder called React Basics, and then it's going to install everything we need for us. Okay, so whilst it's installing, let me walk you through the installing the Node.js. So if you don't have Node.js, just go to your browser, right? Your browser, and then search nodejs.org. So it directs you here, and then you are going to see these options here, whether you to download the LTS version or the current version. So it's highly recommended to download the LTS version because the LTS version is the version which is working and it has no bugs. Okay, but then the current version is sort of like in test mode. So if you use it, there might be some bugs in it that might worry you in the future. So just to be on the safer side, just download the LTS version. Yeah, so that's just it. If you don't have Node.js, just make sure you install it for this to work. Okay, so it's still installing. Let's wait for it a bit. Okay, so at the end of this React session, so what we are going to do here is that, like the application we built, the counter app we built in the HTML part, we just added the addition functionality. Okay, we added, so when you click the button, it increases the number. It increases the number by 1. So for sort of like your practice, I will do the increment for you, and then there's another section for decrement. So we are going to create another button. And that button is, when you click on it, it should reduce the number by say 1 or something, you know. So yeah, that's the task you guys are going to have at the end of this event. So what we are going to do, what I'm going to help you do is for the increment part, and you are going to do for the decrement part. And when you do that, I would like to have a look at it and review it and maybe assess it. And if there is a problem, you can just hit, or I'll just notify you that, okay, what you've done here, you could have done it this way or whatever. So yeah, I'm going to drop a link to a form, Microsoft Forms, right? That if you're able to do this thing, and you are going to fill the form, just your name and then your email, and then you include the link to that repo, because we are also going to walk through how we are going to actually upload our applications to GitHub, or just use Git to send our applications, our codes to GitHub. So after you have done that, you have seen the process. When you do yours, you can also do the same. Push your codes to GitHub, create a repository, push your codes to GitHub, and then when you are done creating that repository and your codes are there, you can put that link, okay? That link, the link to that repository, you put it in the form. So the form is taking your full name, your email, and then the link to that repo. So everyone that submits that form, I'm going to review each and every person's code, and then if there is a feedback, I'm going to receive it in your mail. Yes. So that's kind of like what what you should be expecting. So this thing is still downloading. For some reason, it's taking a lot of time. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I would like to know
Kelvin,
you guys.
You can take some questions like whilst it finishes.
Oh, okay, sure. So if you have a question, you can ask. You can. This is the time to ask. Yeah, Esther, I can see your hand is up.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Esther.
Please, what's the difference between NPM and NPX, and why did you use MPX?
Good question. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to learn on your own, because sometimes it's very good to know how to do things on your own as well. Okay, so it's all part of the learning. So right now, you want to know the difference between NPX and then NPM. Am I okay? Great. Yes, great. So now let's Google what the difference between NPM and NPX is, and let's see what Google tells us, because the internet has all the information we need, basically. So let's see what is the difference between NPM and NPX. So we have the answer here. Just like that, you get your answer. So the command npm is used to download JavaScript packages from Node Package Manager, and npx is used to execute JavaScript packages downloaded this way. To understand why both of these commands are needed, we need to consider npm's approach to dependency management. Okay, so what this thing is saying here basically is that the npm, right? npm is actually just used to install packages in your applications, right? So maybe you're writing your React app, you need maybe React icons. React icons is a Node.js package, right? It's a package it's a JavaScript package. Okay, you need that package in your application. To install it, you're not going to use npx, you're going to use npm, right? Because npm is the tool which is going to help you install that package. But then npx helps you install like things, like the things or the environment that helps you use npm. So npx, think of it like npx being the mother of npm. You get me? Yeah. So npm is basically, it's used more often when you have a running application. Okay, that's when you do npm install this, npm install that. Okay, and when you want to create an environment, like how we just created a React environment, you can use the npx. You get me? Okay, hopefully I hope I've answered you.
Okay, so Frank Nyame, you can unmute and then ask your question. Frank.
Okay, so I think we should move on because we are a bit behind schedule. Okay, so so at this point the everything has installed perfectly. The React has installed. So you get something here saying we suggest that you begin by typing cd React Basics. This is there because the folder we created called React Basics, it's containing all the React files that we need, right? So you must enter into that folder because that's where all the React files we need, the packages, and then everything we need is. So we must enter into that folder. So cd, let me just copy it. I don't want to type it. I'm feeling lazy to type. Sorry. Let me copy it and then paste it here. So cd React Basics, it should. So now I'm inside React Basics. So the same thing you do. Let me clear the terminal. You do code dot to open it in VS Code. So right now, we're in VS Code inside that folder called React Basics. So you realize the folder is supposed to be empty, but now it's not empty. It has already pre-built files in it, okay? Because since we use npx create React app, it has gone ahead to create the environment for us to install our React app, okay? Yeah. So as you can see, we have all the necessary files. So let's start from the top. We have this folder here called node modules. Now, believe me, you don't want to enter into this folder because it's very massive. Contains all the modules, all the packages that actually makes React work. Okay, so we really don't want to enter there because it's very massive. So as I just opened it, look at the number of folders it contains. You know, it's very massive. You just don't waste your time. You don't want to try it. Okay, so I'm not going to talk much about it. And then we have the public folder. Now this public folder contains all our static files, okay? Static files like our images, videos, and whatever. So that's like contains our static files. And then we can see an index.html file here. So believe it or not, this is just the HTML file that we need. And we can build massive applications with it. We don't have to create multiple HTML files. We just need this HTML file here. And then that's all we need. And we don't even have to edit anything in here. Everything will just remain as it is here. We don't have to come in here and write any code. Just like that, everything will be perfectly fine here. And note this, that any code at all you write in React, it will end up here in this div with the ID of root. This div. That's where every code will be. Okay, that's how crazy React is, because it's very, it makes things very simple, trust me. Okay, so this is all we need for the HTML file. We don't need to do anything in here again. So let me close the public folder, and then we have the SRC. Now the SRC is like where we are going to build our application. Basically, that's where we're going to create our files, our components, and everything we need for our application to run. Okay. So but for now, there are a lot of files here which we basically would need, like this app test.js, and then this report whereby blah blah blah. We don't need them. The only files we need right now is the index.js and then the app.js. So let's talk about the index.js. Yes, so you see initially what we did in HTML, we made reference to every tag we needed inside the JavaScript file. So suppose the HTML code we wrote was a lot, then it means we have to make reference to all the individual tags that we need to use JavaScript on, and that's very tedious. Okay, but then with React, you do it once with that div I showed you here, that div with the ID of root, and that's what's happening here. So as you can see here, this root here, React DOM creates root document.get element by ID. So it's making reference to that div. So that's where all our React code is going to enter. Okay. Now you are going to see that clearly when I open the console soon enough. So don't worry about it. And I've seen this app here. Now this app thing here you are seeing here is actually from this app.js. So this file is more or less like the root of your application. It holds the whole application basically. It's like the head of the application. Okay. That's the root file for you. And when we enter the app.js here, that's where the app.js is being referenced here. Okay, that's what we have here. So now this way I'm going to work more often. Like we are going to put in our codes in here. Okay, so now to start a React project, right now this is the boilerplate for React basically. Now to start it, you open your terminal on VS Code. So to open the terminal, you can use Control plus tilde. Now tilde, this is tilde. I hope you can see the cursor. This thing here is tilde. So Control plus tilde will open the terminal for you. So I'm going to open my terminal right now. So it has opened my terminal for me right now. So if for some reason your terminal is not open, you can just on the top tabs here hit terminal and then click new terminal. It's going to open a new terminal for you. Okay, great. So now we're inside the folder called React Basics. Now to start a React app, you just do npm start and it's going to start it for you. When it starts it, you are going to see a spinning React logo to show that everything is working. Okay, great. So if you see this spinning React logo, it means you have successfully installed React. Great, let's just move on quickly. Okay. Yes, so this is the app file. And this is the spinning icon you can see there, and this edit app the spinning image you are seeing here, this is it. And then edit app.css and save it, reload. This is it, edit CSS. So basically that's where you are seeing this thing from. So we are coming to write our own code, so we don't need this thing. So we're going to clear it, right? We're going to remove it. And we have this div here with the class name called app. Great. So now let's start building the what do we call it? The counter app. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce something here called components, right? In React, we have components. So components are bits and pieces of our application. Okay, so it's like a section, a small part. Components play like specific roles in our applications. Okay, so we create a component and then we use it in our applications basically. So that's the whole idea behind components. So by convention to create components, you need to inside the SRC folder, create a new folder, right? And then we name it components. Because usually you end up creating a lot of files in the components folder. So you need to have a folder called components so that you store all your components in it. And then I'm going to create a new file inside the component folder called counter, right? And then you give it the extension called js.js, because this is a JavaScript library, so everything you write here must be in a JavaScript file. Okay, so counter.js. So yeah, now we've created our counter.js. Okay, so this is an empty JavaScript file. I'm going to do something here called RAFCE. So you see, initially with the HTML, I just did exclamation. I just hit the exclamation mark and hit enter, and then it brought a boilerplate for me. So that's a similar thing here. I did RAFCE, and then it gives me this boilerplate, right? It gives me this boilerplate. Like such things like this actually makes you develop a lot faster, because you don't want to be typing all this thing over and over again. It's boring, you know. So these things makes you develop a lot faster. So if you want to have this, if you want to be able to do this, I think you must have an extension installed called ES7 snippets, I think. ES7 snippets. Is it ES6 snippets? Okay, but at ES6, ES7, something of that sort. Just Google it to find out. It's an extension which helps you to do something like that. So if you do RFC, it's going to give you the boilerplate. So the new version of React, you don't have to import React in our file, so you can just clear this one out. So now we have a counter app, right? So this is using the functional base components. So in React, we have the class base, and then we have the functional base. So what we are doing here is we are using the functional base. Okay, we are not using the class base. So this is the functional base. Now functional because we are using counter and then this arrow function. This is the ES6 syntax. So we're using this arrow function here to create a functional based component. Okay, so because this is how we create functions in JavaScript, you know. Yeah, so this is how we create the functional components basically. So we have a component here called counter, and just this div in here with a text in it called counter. Now you might be asking, how is this working? Because this is not supposed to work. Technically, you are not supposed to be able to write div inside a JavaScript file, because JavaScript doesn't understand this thing. Okay, JavaScript doesn't understand div. JavaScript doesn't understand h1. It doesn't understand the p tag. It doesn't understand the span tag. But for some reason, it is working here. So how is it working? Okay, that's the JSX we talked about in the slides earlier. Okay, that's the JSX. So the JSX actually helps you to sort of like, it's the JavaScript XML, right? It sort of like helps you to write your HTML inside the JavaScript code. But then it's not HTML, it's called JSX basically. You must understand it that way. So when you write your JSX code, it's then transpiled by it's then compiled by a transpiler called Babel. Okay. Now Babel converts this JSX to something JavaScript understands. It converts the HTML code that you are seeing here to JavaScript for JavaScript to understand. Okay, because if you open the node models here, we have a folder here called Babel. That's where the magic is happening. Okay, yeah. So that's it for the component. So now we've created a component. Okay, it's not appearing. It's not. Let me bring this to the side, and then so that you can see both views. So right now we've cleared everything on the browser, right? Everything is gone, because initially there was this spinning React icon, but now it's gone. So because it's gone because we cleared it inside the app.js. We cleared everything here. Okay, so now we have this counter app here, this counter here, but then we want to have it inside the app, because I told you that the app is inside the index.js. So it's more like the root. Okay, the app is the root. So that's where we are going to be putting all our codes. Okay, so now we've created a component called counter. I think there's a mistake in the naming of the file. So in React, right, if you want to create components, it must start with capital letter. Okay, right now what I have here is starting with a small letter. So if you do something like this, you might face a bug. So I must start it with a capital C like this. So counter.js, like so. And then let's change the naming here to capital C counter. Now, if you're wondering how I'm able to select all this text, I use Control Shift and then D. Control Shift and oh, sorry. What did I just do? Okay, so for some reason it just left my mind. Okay, so I just selected the text. I just selected the same. So if you highlight the text and they are the same, yeah, Control D. You do Control D, and then it selects the text for you. So if there are similar occurrence of the same text, it's going to select it for you. So Control plus D will do the magic for you. Okay, so now we've made the change here. Now if you want to call the React, so okay, so now think of components like variables. Think of it like you're declaring variables in JavaScript. You know, because in JavaScript, to declare a variable, And when you declare the variable once, you can use it in your whole code, in the code, anywhere at all in your code. So suppose maybe you are writing a code, right? And in the code, there's the name or your name, maybe Kelvin or something, appears a lot of time in your code. So if you are not smart, what you are going to do is you write anywhere you put the name Kelvin there, you just type Kelvin, just type Kelvin. So if there is an instance in the future that, okay, instead of putting Kelvin there, put James or whatever name over there, does it mean you have to change it in every place you put the code? So the best thing is to create a variable called name and then put the name there called Kelvin. And when you want to use it, use the variable name, which is name or whatever you called it, whether student or whatever. So let's say const student equals Kelvin. Okay, then when you take the variable called student, you put it everywhere the name is supposed to occur. So if in the future you want to change the name from Kelvin to James, you just go to that variable, you change it, and it's going to automatically change everywhere the name Kelvin occurs. And that's very simple. When you do that, you're working smart. Okay, now that's the whole idea behind components. Think of creating components as declaring variables. When you declare a variable, you can use it everywhere. So when you create a component, you can use it everywhere as well. Okay, so we've created a component here. And I'm going to call the component. So to call the component, you are just going to use this this sign here, and then the name of the component is called counter, because that's what we created. Now when you do that, we are getting this error here because the counter here is not being referenced. It doesn't know what counter is. The model is not found. So you have to import it, right? You have to import it. To import it, this is what you do. You do import counter from then the direction where it's coming from. So it's coming from the component folder, and then it's inside the counter file. So counter.js, but then you can ignore the .js. Okay, so what I did to get this to come automatically is right here where the cursor is, I did Ctrl+space to get these options. Now this is what I want, so I just hit it and it automatically imported it for me. So let me remove this thing here. Okay, great. So now as you can see, you can see this counter here. It just appeared because we've imported the counter component we created. And the counter we are seeing here is coming from here. So if I change this to it should change over here automatically. As you can see, it has changed. All right, any code at all we write in here, it should now appear over here. Okay, great. Now let's start building our app. So first of all, the same thing we did. Let's do H1. The same thing we did. Okay, let me just type it manually, and then we put in the 0 here, and then a button with this plus here. Okay, like so. So let's style it a bit. Let's see how we can actually style in React. So in React, it's very simple to style. Just like how you create a CSS file. You come here inside your components folder where you have the counter.js file. You come in here, create a new file called, you can name it whatever you want, but make sure that you're having the .css extension. I'm going to call it counter.css. So right now we've created a CSS file. And you have to import it as here as well. So to import the CSS file, you just do import, and then you make reference to where the file is. So the file is inside the same folder as the counter app. Okay, the counter.js. They are all in the same folder. So to make reference to a file inside the same directory, just do /, which means that the file I'm looking for is inside that same folder. Then the name of that file, counter.css. Now suppose the file was outside that folder, I'm going to do ... which means we are getting out of that folder. Okay, but since it's inside, we're going to do just a single dot to make reference inside that folder. Okay, so now let's give this thing a class. This button, let's give it a class. So in HTML, we just write class, but then in React, we use class name, because class is a reserved keyword. Class means something else in JavaScript because it's reserved basically. So you don't want to use class. We are going to use class names here. So I'm going to give this button a class name called button. Okay. And then when you come in here, we make reference to that button. So you do button. And then just let me see what these people are giving me. GitHub Copilot. Okay, we can manage this. So we have this button here with a background color of black. Color here meaning the text color should be white, and then it has a border, no border radius of 4 pixels. Border radius which causes the edges to be curved. And then we have a padding of 10 pixels, and then 10 pixels on the x-axis, and then 20 pixels on the y-axis. So 10 pixels on the side, 20 on the, or Yeah, something of that sort. And then we have font size 16 pixels, and then cursor pointer. So the cursor pointer, as you can see, you have a cursor here like so. So we can work with this basically. Okay, so now what we want to do here is the same thing we did initially. When we click on this button, we want the number to increase. So we will do the same thing here. We're going to create a variable called let count equals 0, right? And then we are going to create a function const increase equals, create the function here, and then we do count plus plus. Let me remove this render. We do count plus plus, which means that anytime we click the button, this count here is going to be increased by 1. Okay, so this simply means count is equal to count plus 1, like so. Okay, so anytime we click the button, this function is going to be called, and the value of count is going to be increased by 1. Okay, great. So you have this here, this function in here. So what we want to do here now is, so you see in JavaScript, it's very simple to manipulate the DOM. Okay, we can simply put this JavaScript variable here inside the JSX file here, okay, the JSX line here. So instead of having the 0 directly in here, we can put it in curly braces here and make reference to this count variable. Okay, so now whatever count is going to appear here. So if I change counts to, then it's directly going to appear here. Now, suppose this was being done in HTML, I'd have to reference the tag which is holding the field I want in the JavaScript. So const documents or get elements by ID before I get hold of that tag in the HTML, and then I get a chance to manipulate it in JavaScript. Okay, but then it's very simple in React. Just create the variable in here, and then with the help of these curly braces, you put in the variable name, and then it's going to directly appear on your browser. Very simple. Okay, great. So now what we want to do here is, with this increase function, anytime I click this button, we want it to increase by 1. Okay, so with what we did in the HTML, remember I went back to the HTML file and then I added on click with the function. Then I added a function. I'm going to do the same thing here. So with the button, I'm going to do on click, and then we put in the function like so. Okay. All right, let me refresh the page now. So this, let's make this 0 instead of 10. So 0 in here. Okay, so as you can see here, nothing is happening, right? Nothing is happening. You must be wondering, why is this not working? Because technically this should work, right? Because that's what we did in the first one and it worked. But then it's not working here. Why? Okay, let's see something here. Let's log what counts is in here. Let me do console.log count. So it's a good thing to log things in the console for debugging sake. It helps you have a better picture of the whole code you are writing, so that you are able to debug more efficiently. Okay, so now I don't understand why the count is not increasing. So I'm going to log it to see what is happening. Okay, so I'm going to, in the browser, right, I'm going to open the developer console. Okay, so I just did Control-Shift+C to open the console for me. So this is the console, right? Right now I'm logging the count. So when I click the button, let me see what happens. So as you can see in the console, you can see the number is actually increasing, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But then it's not being affected on the state of the application. It's not changing on the state of the application for some reason. It's not changing, but then it's working technically. Count is being increased, but then it's not changing. And you can see that I've put in count in the H1, so this should work basically. It should just work, because since we placed count here, it was being replaced in here. But then for some reason, when we click on the button, it's not changing. It's only changing in the console. Okay. Now this is happening because for React, before you change the state of your application, you need to like explicitly tell React that, hey, for this component, change the state for me. Okay. Unlike HTML, for HTML, any change that happens in a single component, it affects the whole application. And if you are building a complex application with HTML and CSS, it becomes very slow, because any slight change at all will affect the whole application, which will cause the whole application to reload, and essentially it makes the user have a bad experience using your application. Okay, but with React, you have to explicitly tell the component to change the state, and it's very effective, because if the state of that small component changes, it's not going to affect the whole application. It's going to affect just that particular component. You get it? It's not going to affect the whole application, and it's very good for building applications, okay, because it makes the whole applications very fast, and then it gives the user a better experience as well. Okay. So now to make it affect the states, this where I introduce hooks to you. So we have in React, we have something called hooks. We have a lot of React hooks, right? But then for what we are doing here, we're going to use the use state hook. So if you are writing React, you by all means end up using use state hooks. It's very one of the most common hooks which is being used in React. Because there are a lot of hooks to do, but then with the use state hook, you would use it all the time. Okay, so we are going to use the use state hook for this instance here. So to use the use state hook, we are going to do, let me just use the a snippet here. And so this is how we write a use state. So let me name it count. So set count to. So now I'm getting this error because the use state is not being recognized. The module is not being imported. So to use use state, you have to import it. So basically, any foreign material you want to use, you must import it first, else you'll be getting these errors. So I'm going to do Control plus space bar, and then I'm going to get this option here, use state, and I automatically get use state being imported. Okay, so now this thing is happening because count is being declared twice. So let me clear this one. Okay, great. So now this is how we use use state. But then let me explain something here. So let me log something first of all. Console.log use state. Let me move the 0 in here. Okay, so let's check the log and see what we have in here. Okay, ignore the red things we are seeing here. It's from the previous errors. Okay, let me comment out this one for now. And let me refresh. And let me bring back the let's count. I just want to explain something to you before we move on. Okay, great. So as you can see in the console, we have an array here of 2 items, right? We have an array here with 2 items. I just want to explain the use state hook to you. So right now we are logging use states, right? And then in the console, you can see an array here, and inside that array we have 2 items. In index 0 we have undefined, and then in index 1 we have f, which is a function. Okay. Yes, and this is how the use state actually works. So the first item is actually the value for the state, and then the second item is a function which helps you change the value. Okay, think of it that way. So when we come back here in the code, we have the same thing here. We've declared the state here. We've declared the state here, count, and then we have this set count, which is a function. Okay, so this is the array we saw in the terminal, in the console. We have the variable here called count, and then we have set count, which is a function which is going to change the state of the count. Okay, it's going to change the state of the count for us. So instead of using let count equals something, we are going to use the use state. Now this is going to let it affect it's going to affect the components on the browser. So now when we click on it, it should reflect. So inside the function, instead of having this count equals count plus 1, we are going to use the set count here because that's the function we are supposed to be using. So I'm going to use set count equals count plus 1, as you can see here. So set count is the function we are using here, and so set count equals count plus 1. So now when we click on it, it should now change on the browser. Yes, so as we can see, it is changing. So if I change this to 10, it should increase by 10. As you can see, it's increasing by 10, and so on. Okay, so now if we want to duplicate this or have like 5 instances of this component, we just come back here inside the app, and you just duplicate it. Now there's a shortcut to do this, but for some reason it's not working here for me, so I'm not going to use it. So as you can see here, we've now duplicated it by just duplicating this component here 5 times. But imagine doing this in HTML. We had to copy the code, change the names of the IDs, change the names of the variables, and do the same thing over and over again. But by just duplicating this component here, we can have the applications here. So you can, so like I said earlier, so this is the variable, right? You can now use the variable anywhere at all you want. So we've declared the variable inside the counter file, the counter component, and now we are using it here in multiple instances. Okay. But now look at this. This is dumb, to be honest, because they are all doing the same thing. The first one is increasing by 10. The second one is also increasing by 10. They are all doing the same thing. So what if we want the first one to increase by 10, the second one to increase by 5, the third one 15, 20, and so on? How are we going to do that? It's very simple, actually. So in React, we call something props. Okay, props actually help us to make our components reusable, meaning we can dynamically display data from our components. Okay, like, so if you create your component once, your component is created here, but then you can use it to perform different functions. You see, so it's very simple to use it with props. Okay, so that's where props comes in. So to use props, where you have declared your components, right, const counter, in these brackets, right, that's where you put in the props. So I'm going to put props in here. And now let's see what props is. So let me clear the browser. Let me clear the things I have in here so that you get a better view. So inside the counter here, we have props here. Let me log what props is instead of use it. Let me put in the props. Okay, so now let's check the terminal and see what we have. Okay, so let me clear the terminal and then refresh the page again. Okay, so this is the what I'm logging now, which is the props. As you can see, it's an empty object, right? The props is an empty object. Now, if I want to use a prop, right? Okay, so let me show you why we would need a prop in this case. Let me increase this a bit. So right now, what we want to do is we want a component to, we don't want the component to always increase by 10. We want it to increase by a value we can specify when we are declaring or when we are using the components anywhere at all in the application. So instead of having this count plus 10, I'm going to say count plus props dot value. Okay, count plus props dot value. And then here, instead of having just the plus, I'm going to say plus props. No, so it's going to, since you are using the JavaScript value inside the JSX, we're going to put it in the curly braces. So count the plus, and then we put it in the curly braces, props dot value. Okay, now we've added a prop in here. Okay, so this is basically the idea of prop. So if you come back in here, right, and so now if you click on it, it shouldn't work. It's telling you not a number. This NaN means not a number. That's because we have it declared in the variable in here. So we are going to put in the we're going to put in the prop in here. So inside the app.js, we're going to put in a prop in here called value. Okay, because that's the name we gave it. So the value, and then we say 5, like so. So now let me refresh the thing and see what we get here. Okay, now this 5 I've put in here is going to replace the props.value here. So we are going to have count plus props.value, which is count plus 5, and count plus 5 will be here, as you can see here. So it's no longer just the plus, but we have plus 5. So now when we click on it, it's going to increase by 5. So if we create another instance here, let me copy this and paste it here and make this one say 15. Okay, so it means that, so as you can see, it just changed immediately. So the first one is 5, the next one is 15, as you can see here. And then we do the same thing again, 30. So let's say 30. So it's going to change here. So plus 30, like so, basically. So this is basically the whole idea behind, like, just a brief intro about what React is, how React can be beneficial to you. Now, this is not like the best way of creating it. We can just put it in a loop, a map, so that we loop it the number of times you want, maybe from an array of values, and then we loop through it that number of times, and then we create the dynamic data we want here. But then with this, you can see how simple we are able to dynamically create this component and let it display various values for us. Now, if we were doing this in HTML, it's going to be very, very tedious, just this application. Okay, so that's why we should very much consider gaining some level of skills or knowledge in React, because it's very important in the job market today. If you have the skills of a React developer, trust me, you're going to be making backspace, basically. So you must, this is just to like get you interested into React so that you continue further studies with the React, because it's very important. This is just like an intro, yeah. So you have to further continue learning, basically. You just have to continue learning, stick your head in there, stay focused, and then continue developing your skills, basically. So hopefully you've gained a basic knowledge about React, and you have seen how you can create components, make them reusable and all. Okay, so now let's straight ahead push this code to GitHub. Let me open this browser. So let me go to my GitHub and create a new repo. So this is my. Am I still on? Okay. So this is my GitHub page. This is my username Kesowa. So you can give me a follow. I'm going to follow back, and then we see what you are doing. Okay, so this is my GitHub. I'm going to my repositories to create a new repo, right? So let me create a new repo. You come to repositories, you hit this new button here, and I'm going to call it counter app. Okay, I'm going to make it public, and then yeah, just leave the settings as it is and create repository. So now I've created a repository here. Now what I need here is this link, because this link is going to make reference to this repo, right? So I just copy this link here. To copy, I just hit this button here to copy the link. So back in VS Code, I'm going to open the terminal. I'm going to open the terminal, right? And let me split the terminal so that I can write extra code here. Okay, so with Git, for Git to work, you need to have Git installed. Okay, you need to go to just Google download Git. You are going to get a link to download Git on your PC. So now, first of all, I have to stage it. Okay, so this is your code, right? You have to stage it before you push it to GitHub. So I have to stage it and then commit it. So to do that, you do git add dot. Now this command is going to stage all your files, all your changes for you. Okay, it's going to stage everything. So the dot change makes reference to all the files in this project. Okay, it makes reference to all the files in this project with the dot. But then if you want to stage one specific file, you can just put in the name. So git add and then the name of that file, say git add index.js or something. So it makes reference to just that file, but then with the dot, it refers to all the files. So now we've staged it, we have to commit it. So we do git commit, then we add a message. So you dash m, then you add the message you want to add. So initial commit. So that's the message you're adding. So now we've committed it, 3 files changes, rewrites, and so on. So now we've committed it, right? Now we have to push it to GitHub. Okay. So to push it to GitHub, let's first of all check our branch. Let's see git branch. So right now it's on master, right? The branch we are on is on master. Maybe you would like to maintain master, but normally I usually use main. Okay, so I'm going to change it from master to main. So to change it, we're going to do git branch, and we do capital M, and then you say main. Now this is going to change it from master to main. So clear the terminal. So now if you do git branch, you're going to see that it's no longer master, but it is main. Okay, great. So now we want to push the code to GitHub. So to push it, we need to make reference to that remote origin. Okay, because right now this is just working locally on our local repo or our local folder or whatever you may want to call it. So if you want to make reference to a server or something else elsewhere, you are going to actually have to link it together. Okay, so we want to link our local repo to get the GitHub repo we just created. So to do that, you do git remote add origin, and then the link I copied, right? This link I copied here, I'm going to paste it in here. Okay, like so. So git remote add origin. Now this is going to link our repo for us. So now we have hooked it with the remote origin. So now I can do git push origin, and then the name of the branch. Okay, git push origin, and then the name of the branch. So now this is going to go ahead and push all the files we've just created here to GitHub for us, the repo we've just created. Okay, so now when you come back here to this is the repo we've created, right? If I refresh it, you see that all the files will start appearing. Let me refresh the page. Okay, as you can see, everything is now here. So just like that, all our code is now on GitHub. So it's very important as a developer to have your codes on GitHub, because if now that it's on GitHub, I can just delete it from my PC and I can use it. I can later get it from GitHub. I just clone it and then do whatever I want to do with it. Yes. So if you want, so right now this repo is public, right? If you want to have this code, because like I said earlier, your task will be to add a button, a second button, right? Because right now we only have one button. So your task is to add a second button, which would reduce the value. So since this is increasing by 5, another button which is reducing by 5. So this one to reducing by 15, this one to reducing by 30. So that's your task. So to do this, you first have to clone the repo. Okay, so you need to clone this repo. So to clone this repo, you hit the code button you see here, right? And make sure you're on local, because if you have this code paste option here enabled, you make sure you are on local. If you don't have it, don't worry. Immediately you click on it, you are going to see this thing. So when you click on code, then use this HTTPS method to click to get this URL. Okay, so when you get this URL, so I'm not just walking you through how you can clone this project. So when you get this URL, you open your terminal once again. Let me open my terminal here. And then to clone, you just do git clone. And then, okay, first of all, let me change the directory to, let me just go back to the desktop. So right now we're inside the desktop. So I'm going to do git clone and then the URL I just copied. Okay. Now this is going to go ahead to clone all the files from here into this folder. So this is how you can get the project I just did. Right. So now if I go to desktop, inside my files, if I go to desktop, I should see it's there. Yeah, so this is my desktop. As you can see, you have React Basics here. So it has just cloned the project for me on GitHub. Okay. So if you cloned it and you want to run the project, the first thing you have to do is to run npm install to install all the packages, to have node modules running. Okay, that's the first. Don't forget about it. Run npm install to install all the packages for you. Then just do npm start. It's going to open this browser for you, and then you can start making your changes. Okay. Yeah, so that's just a brief intro about Git for you. You can read more online. So yeah, like I said earlier, this is an introduction, the first look to React.js, right? And then Git. So this is an opportunity for you to further learn more about the topic. Okay, learn more about Git, learn more about React, because there's actually more to learn. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of benefits with React. It actually increases your development speed. It's very important because as a developer, it's very important to develop very faster. You have to develop very fast. You don't have to be slow. You have to be fast. So React helps you to be fast and it helps you build projects quickly. Okay, unlike HTML and CSS. Okay, so I think this is it for this session. We've pretty much done almost everything because for the sake of time, there are certain things that we haven't been able to touch now because I wanted to do this in a very cleaner way, but then I think this is enough. This is enough for now. This is enough for now. So just make sure that you have this, you clone this project and then make the necessary changes. Add the second button, which is going to decrease, do the same thing here, and then just go to the form. So Jerry, can you please drop the link to that form in the chat section? I'll also drop it in the WhatsApp group. Please drop the link to the chats, the WhatsApp group, and then the form as well inside the chat section so that they can access it. So the link for the form, just keep it somewhere, and then when you are done with it, when you are done with the tags here, just put in your name, your email, and then the link to your repo that you've created. Because when you are done, just create a repo and then push it there. Then when I open the form, I'm going to see it and I'm going to review it. Okay, so that's all you have to do. Just clone the repo and then make the changes. Now the form is going to be closed on Monday, so you have today and tomorrow to finish this task. Then on Monday, I'm going to close it and then I'm going to review it basically. So you have just today and tomorrow. Okay. So yeah, that's it. I think this is pretty much it. We can end it here. If anyone has a question, you can ask now.
Yeah, so we have some hands. Yeah, I think someone hand was up. And also the form is in the chat. Everyone can just copy the link. And then also we will be taking the attendance. So hopefully I think Kelvin will look at that and look at the certificates too. And so with the task given, Kelvin will be using that to judge for the LinkedIn premium voucher that will be given. So be able to complete that task means that is what you are getting. But then everyone on the call, if you stayed from the beginning to the end, you would be sending a set if only you registered with your mail. So Mark hands is up. So Mark, if you have a question, you can ask.
Yeah, thank you, Kelvin. I think, I joined quite late, but I think from what I heard you and saw you demonstrated, it was kind of a very good way of developing an app as a starter. Yes. So my question has to do with the repo. When you were trying to commit your code to the repo using your VS Code, the terminal there. So you started by doing git add. So I want to know, is it that because you have already logged into GitHub from your VS Code, that is why you could easily go ahead just doing the git add? Or if I'm a first timer trying to kind of prepare my VS Code environment to be able to push my code to GitHub, do I also have to just go straight and then do the git add kind of command to push my code, or there's something else I have to do before?
Thank you very much, Mark. So that's a very good question. So I think I should have talked about it first before doing the git add comments, but for the sake of time, I think it slipped my mind. Thank you very much again, Mark. So yes, for this to work, you first of all have to log in to in the terminal or in VS Code. And if you start with git add VS Code will automatically prompt you to log in, so it won't be a problem. Okay, you're going to see an error here saying just log in. You're going to just follow the message there, copy the command, put in your email to your GitHub or your username, and then put in your password as well in the terminal to log in. Okay. Now do that, it's going to log in, and then you can continue with the command. Okay, it's very simple. So like if you start without being logged in on VS Code, you're going to face an error. And when you read the error message, it's going to tell you what to do. Okay. Yeah, so I think
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question?
Yes. Any more questions? Any more questions?
You were like we filled some forms and I didn't get to see that form.
Oh, okay. So Jerry, please have you dropped the form in the chat?
Yes, the form is in the chat. So if you have access to the chat, you should see the form. It's in the chat. I would also I'll just quickly put it in the MLSA WhatsApp group. Yes, I'm just doing that. So it's also in the chat right now.
I don't think I'm in that WhatsApp group.
Okay. Please drop the WhatsApp link, Jerry. So that
Okay, to
everyone
the
can
to
join.
the
In
group,
the chat,
right?
in the chat.
So if
Yeah,
you
the link.
the chat.
Yeah, the link
Okay.
to our WhatsApp group. Please put it in the
Okay.
chat.
So yeah, if you're not in the community, okay. So I have it right now. So yes.
Okay.
So it's in the
So I'll
chat
still
now.
okay, so I'll still get my gift and all.
You are going to get your certificate. That's so for the certificates, it's going to be given to the people who are present here
Also
right now.
registered.
So those who
Oh, okay.
yes, those who registered and also are here right now. Okay.
Okay, I
Yeah,
wasn't
so
able
don't
to
worry.
register.
But you are here, so it's a thing. So don't worry, you're going to get it. Just make sure that you are here with your name, because the name you have here is what's going to be on your certificate.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So the link to the community WhatsApp group is in the chat. Also, the link to the form to complete the task is also in the chat. Mark, I think your hand is up. You can quickly ask your question and then you wrap up.
Yeah. So I want to find out whether this will be the only session that will be held for this very event, or there's going to be subsequent events on React to sort of keep us going.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. So yeah, this is just the beginning. There is more to come. So right now
Hello.
you have been introduced to React, right? What you have to do is the time you have, just continue to learn more about React. Start trying your hands on new things on React, because we would have another event in the future, which will be on a more advanced topic on React. Okay, it won't be just what we just did today is just the bare basics of React. But the next time we are going to move a little further from what we did today. So don't worry at all. We are in the future. We're going to have events which are more advanced in React. So yeah, don't worry. You are going to get things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, yeah. If Kelvin says in the future, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week Saturday. It's not like the far away future. So yeah.
Yeah. So don't think future like somewhere 10 years time. No. It could be next 2 weeks. It could be next week. It could be tomorrow. It could be 30 minutes from now. So yeah.
Please, I'm in the Crystal Academy group. I can't see the link that you sent.
No, the link is in this chat, this meeting chat. If you've joined via mobile, if you're using the Teams app, you can just check the chat. Or if you are using if you joined via like the web, you can also check the chat option. Like
Ah,
it's in
okay,
the
okay, okay,
Teams app.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
not like your WhatsApp.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, sure.
But are
Thank
you
you.
in the community WhatsApp group,
Which one?
the MLSA group? Are you inside?
I'm not in any MLSA.
Okay. So I think Jerry is in the chat for the WhatsApp group.
Yes, the link. All the links are in this chat, so
Yeah.
you
So
can
there is a
just
WhatsApp
tap on it
link
and
in the
join.
chat. Click on it
Okay,
and then join.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, personally, I'd just like to say this has been an interactive session. Kelvin, we just have one more question from Prof. So Prof, just let's take your question and then.
Yeah, just a quick one about the WhatsApp group. That MLSA Eugene group you've been sharing there, it seems there's been no communication in that group.
Okay. So actually there are communication, but then it's not very frequent.
So no, like with the group that's I don't know about my network. Can you hear me, Kelvin?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, so like we have a new link in a group, right? The old group, like you are doing some merge, like we are trying to merge it into one. So currently most of the communications are going on in the new group. And yes, so that the link to that group is in the chat. Apologies for that.
That group has been existing for a while, but like you don't share, I don't see some activity there. Or have I been missing it? Because I'm in the group now. I've been there for a while, but I don't, like for instance, this program, the flyer was not there and stuff like that.
Oh, it was. That's like the first place that receives the flyer all the time. I post everything in the WhatsApp. Yeah.
Let me see
When
it
did
through.
you join the group? When did you join the group, please?
Okay, so this particular one, MLSA Eugene, I just joined now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Oh, so if you join right now, we are on the meeting, so that's why the group is quiet. Because on WhatsApp, if you join a group for the first time,
Oh, okay.
everything we've said in the group, you're not going to see it unless maybe you see concurrent ones. Okay.
Okay, so I see another
actually,
older MLSA Eugene group. That one, same name, but it seems there's no activity in that one.
okay. So Jerry, I think it could be your
So
group.
that's what I'm saying, that's like the previous one. And the thing is that we had like with that one, you have like lots of the students there are mostly like completing. So right now currently, so we will make it in a form of a community. So we will merge both. That is what I'm saying. But then the active one currently is the one in the chat session.
Okay, makes sense.
Which has lots of like communication going on. Yes.
Okay.
So we just merge it
On
with
that
the
one.
community.
Okay, sure.
Yes.
Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah,
Any more
so
questions?
I think personally it has been an interactive session. Kelvin, you took it like from like the basic to, I mean, personally I've learned a lot, and then some of the shots using the co-pilot and all that. And so yes, we thank you for this session. Hopefully we can have more sessions like this, and yes, more activity. Glad a lot of you stayed on the call. We'll make sure this time we get everyone. So there's a tough work. Kelvin, you'd have to wait and then download the attendance. Let's stop the recording now. And
Okay.